Okay, so we're here talking about left-hand drive cars versus right-hand drive cars. Right hand, Brexit, it's all about the right hand, isn't it?
That old chestnut.
Yeah, it is, surely. I mean, you look at any of the cars that sell really well, what you really want is that rare right-hand drive model, having owned two of my cars being rare right-hand drive models.
I'm with you. I think that people argue that left-hand drive is better.
You're not supposed to agree with me.
Well, I'm going to. People argue that left-hand drive is better because it's a global market, and there are more people for you to sell your left-hand drive car to, which is why a whole load of cars have come into the UK over the last 3-4 years, because the Europeans haven't had any money and they thought, let's flog all our cars to the Brits because they're paying fortunes for them. The trouble about it is what the people who are buying the left-hand drive cars over here haven't figured out is why are they coming over in the first place? Because there isn't a market for those left-hand drive back in their home markets.
Okay. Yeah.
So they're kidding themselves.
Yeah.
And also, the other really big problem with them is you're buying a sports car, a classic supercar. In this country, driving on the wrong side of the road just doesn't work. If you're in something low and wide behind something that's of that, you can't overtake.
Yeah.
So the driving pleasure isn't there. The residuals aren't there at the moment, and people are going to argue that they're going to come back because they're all going to go back onto the continent, but I don't see that.
How many do we see coming across the books?
But there's a steady flow of American cars being imported into the UK, restored and enjoyed by the owners in the UK.
Do you mean American built cars?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's slightly different.
Yeah, I think that is.
You can get the last generation of Mustang. You could get converted to right-hand drive.
Yeah.
You speak to a Mustang owner and they'll say, "Oh, you mustn't do that. It's got to be left-hand drive."
Yeah.
And I get that.
Yeah.
With American cars, but these European cars.
Yeah, I was a question about American built because you've got we've seen quite a lot of European built cars which went to America, were sold in America, and were worth less over there over the last couple of years, probably changing now because of exchange rates. But then coming back in, so. Early E-types, for example,
that's right.
And the more obscure Italian things like Data Marsos and things like that. Whereas it's really hard to find it, but you could find one over there which you actually could bring back and start again.
Yeah, so we're seeing a steady flow of perhaps the British sports cars, the export cars from the 50s and 60s. They're coming back into the UK. People buy them because they're still really affordable in America. And so you're getting a dry state sound basis for a great restoration project. Then in the UK all the parts are available. The specialist restoration companies are all in the UK, and you end up with a perfect perfect rebuilt car converted to right-hand drive. That's the thing.
This dry state thing, isn't that a dealer? That's a trick.
Yeah, you're getting metal work, but everything else is shot. You all the interiors and all the paintwork and everything like that. But you depending on where you buy it from. But Arizona cars, they're solid.
The thing about these dry state cars is what I have noticed is there are plenty of dry state cars which have been in New York their whole lives. They get shipped over to San Diego where they're going from the port anyway, and then they become a dry state car.
That's cynics.
And it does happen
all the time.
Rob Sass from Auto Week said exactly that. He said, there are only about 2 actual dry states where there is no grass. And he said everywhere else, and it's a bit of a fallacy. And it's almost like.
They just get re-registered in California and go, look, there's a nice dry state car.
And all our Brits go,
arrives in the UK and falls to pieces in Southampton docks.
And we blame it for the car park at Southampton.